On the other hand, he could even fish something just JO, keeping EIRSTV, which is obviously a very strong six tile for a bingo. Well, how would you approach
Yeah.
this, Mike? Would
So,
you
so
would you leave?
given that it's an even score, Paw doesn't really telegraph a ton about David's rack. He could be just keeping a leave that's reasonably balanced, but not necessarily bingo prone. Um, Jerry going with Rivet in that spot, which
I like that play. I definitely would have liked to get rid of the O, but Rivet
you know,
definitely seems quite good and scores. I mean, scores 37. I think that's the best he could score on this turn.
Rivet or Vireo are all very close to each other in Quackle's evaluation. Over to David now, trailing 76 to 43 with doubled E's and doubled M's. Something like them down to the South Triple seems pretty automatic to me. Uh, Other options Quackle gives are something like meta underneath. This staircase toward the bottom left that is rapidly being constructed.
Yeah, I feel like them just kind of solves all of his problems. I mean, keeps undoubles both of his E's and M's, scores quite well, and yeah, that's looks like that's going to come down quite quickly. And so now
So,
Jerry's looking at AEFOOSX. There's no amazing spots for the X just yet. He could, of course, parallel them, something like Ox or Oxo. That obviously blocks up the most promising bingo lines, which maybe would be nice given he isn't maybe not so sure about how close David is to a bingo.
so one option that jumps out at me, and we looked at the possibility of Foo forming JO a couple of turns ago. Well, now he has that option again. The benefit of it this time is that it would set up the X on
Hmm.
6J. Whether you think that setup might be too transparent, or whether this looks like a play that you would just make to dump a couple of O's is an interesting question.
Yeah, it's a brilliant idea. I think yeah, the one concern obviously is that if David does not bingo, the likelihood of him playing in that spot is just so high. And even if he does bingo, that would also probably be the most likely spot for him to hook Jo.
Right, which would be an argument for now do you tack on the S for the 13 extra points to make it harder to bingo over there or accidentally block?
Right, right. Mm.
Uh,
But Jerry opts for Oxo, which I think is quite reasonable.
yeah, that would be the standard play. Keeping the board tight, which Jerry, you know, his long experience leads him to be very good at tactical games like this, where it's not just a contest of getting down the most bingos and racking up a million points.
Right, right. I mean, the one downside of Oxo is it does actually open a pretty easy to hit bingo line hooking HO. Obviously, it does block the any eights through E or M, but if Dave just happened to have a bingo, he would likely be able to get that down pretty easily.
It would get
Unfortunately,
it down,
Dave,
but it would also score very little.
that's true.
Um, but
Yep.
in this case, with three A's on this rack, the obvious seeming line would be to play something hooking trivet.
Mm.
Kata jumps out to me pretty immediately, scoring 25, keeping AEM, which is reasonable to draw to.
Kata cleans things up quite nicely, obviously getting rid of the triplicate A's. I do wonder if there's any merit in holding the T and kind of leaving that hook open
Hmm.
because the board is getting quite closed. if Jerry doesn't have an E to underlap rivet with RE, I don't know what he's gonna play.
Okay, so David opting to keep the two A's and shut down the hook a different way with Keta for 33.
Which is I think is by far his highest scoring play. It's a nice hook of fava, which if you're not so used to the new words, fave was added pretty recently, and remembering that now takes an A is very important.
I remember losing a game in the Nationals once because I played the new Oxic, or knew at the time Oxic,
Mm,
not remembering that it takes a T.
of course, yeah. And so
Uh,
now Jerry's looking at AAEFINS. No bingos for him to find. So now he's kind of faced with another tough decision. Is he going to go for a bingo, try to score well? How would you approach this turn, Mike?
um, so obviously I'd be looking to get rid of the F and the A and probably one other vowel. Doesn't appear to be a
I
readily
feel,
apparent
yeah.
way
I
of
mean,
doing so.
I kind of it jumps out to me to kind of underlap keta at the bottom left, something like knave or even just fa. But the obvious downsides of that is that you would then just reopen the triple word score for Dave to probably score even better than whatever you could come up with. So I don't even know where I'd want to play. Is it better to
Yeah,
stick away from that?
yeah. It might be what better to Jerry I know is a an avid chess player in addition to Scrabble, and he'll be familiar with the idea of Zugzwang, where you try to force your opponent to a position where they have to move and don't want to, and so leaving that bottom corner, letting him play there first, and then taking the triple in response. But again,
Right.
absent that, something like maybe Feign on column J, hooking Hun, which is exactly what he plays as I say that. I don't love reopening it, but we have an ES to potentially hit the double double line. So this
Right.
seems, again,
It's a
as
little
good as
risky
anything.
opening the yeah. And of course, oh, David has lined up Urania, and that's going to go right down because of that opening that Jerry made. So this one does not work out well, although that doesn't mean the play was wrong. It just, in this particular instance of the game, Jerry's going to get hit hard with Dave's bingo. And that's going to score 73, so that's going to really catapult Dave ahead in this game. And the board is still remains quite constricted.
Yes, Uremia bingoing in such a way that it doesn't really reopen much else. There is the R and the U to worry about, and now plays on column L. Something starting ST would fit quite nicely, but Jerry does not have that. He's drawn two E's, two N's, and an O.
I would be worried about now. I'm going to start worrying about the Z because of the huge Z
Mm.
spot next to the A in Uremia. Although at this score, Jerry can't really afford to think too much about that. I think he just needs to figure out the fastest way for himself to bingo or either score super well with something like the Z if he can draw it.
And if there were a way to make a 5-tile play from the M over to the East triple, that would be what I'd want to do.
Mm.
Does not look like there is a way to do that that doesn't burn at the S, which would give me pause. Although it is the first S, there are 3 more S's and 2 blanks to draw. So something like Misan would be for 24 points, and
All right, that
Open up
does
new lines for
score.
yourself. Open up new lines for yourself. David just drew 7 random tiles. It's unlikely he's going to have something to punish you particularly hard there.
So both blanks are still out, so David is reasonably likely to have drawn something pretty decent, and opening that S and those other floaters could be worrisome for Jerry. I might consider even just kind of a simpler fish, something like one overlapping Urania on the right side, making UN and RE. I'm definitely hoping to undouble both the E's and the N's.
Yeah. Yeah. The leave you want to keep is AEMS from this rack. So something like 1, or if you feel like being very aggressive, something like Aeon to the top row for 14, which is the top equity play according to Quackle, but that does not consider the board position. And I know it's the sort of play that Jerry, in particular, would not like. He is, you know, he's a chess player, and that makes him not much of a gambler by nature. So
I
taking
do
those,
wonder if open or playing down on the bottom left under Kita is maybe makes a little bit more sense. It might distract Dave when Jerry is now so close to a bingo.
so something like NAE perhaps.
Something like NAE down there, exactly. And without an F, REE is pretty hard to hit.
Okay, Jerry going a different route here, just taking maximum points with a C for 28.
Oh, yeah.
And
Not something I
again,
would have considered, but it's an interesting idea.
it's again going back to the idea of it's the first S of the game. You'll have plenty of time to draw something else.
Dave plays Mond practically instantly. That
Yeah.
does seem like one of his best options, although I might have taken a little bit longer to see if I could maybe, I don't know, get rid of the second U.
And as we often say at our SF Club 95, or you could just play the bingo.
Exactly.
Gardant available through the R of Uremias for 60. It is a scary play to make because it does open up the triple when Jerry appears to have a reasonable rack, but if it's the only bingo, almost all the time it's going to be the correct play. So a little bit of a miss from
I think he
David
had
there.
maybe a second U there, actually, so I'm
Oh,
not
did I
sure.
mistype the rack? I probably did.
So yeah, I don't think there was a bingo
Okay, yeah,
miss
yeah.
there. I think he kept GTU on that rack.
I did in fact misread the rack, so apologies for that. But
And Jerry now has EENNOST, and I think Jella Mocha's comment in the chat, Sonnet. It does seem like by far the best play. Instead, he's opting for Tenor, which, a bingo is a bingo, but he will be sacrificing 14 points here. Seems like a slight mistake. I'm wondering if Jerry just missed the D.
it's a frequent thing where not you see a play that you can make and you make it, not taking the time to look at your opponent's play and see what options that gave you.
The scores we might have lost the scores, but I think it's 221 to 203 right now in Jerry's favor. And Dave is now looking at GGIRSTU. First thing I'm thinking about is how can I get rid of those G's and the U? What are you seeing in this rack, Mike?
Again, obviously the G's and the U are the things you want to get rid of. But I was one turn early with my comment last turn, or you could just play the bingo.
There you go. Yeah, wow. Druggist. Yeah, that's a really nice bingo. Dave's word knowledge is quite fantastic, so I do expect him to take the time to find this one. It's a tricky one. I definitely didn't jump out at me just because those G's and U feel so toxic. But yeah, Dave's word knowledge is fantastic, and so I do expect him to see it here. And yeah, 89 points. That is going to be by far the best play in this position.
Does not look like he has spotted that, unfortunately.
Oh man, maybe I jinxed him. So he opts for Trigo, keeping GUS. Scores 24, but yeah, that's definitely going to hurt missing that opportunity.
No, I think I had Jerry's rack as C8. Okay, yeah, two R's around the two ends.
He almost immediately he's putting down Chlorin, it looks like.
Yeah,
I
28.
like that a lot. Yeah.
28
For the
looks
blanks.
reasonable, given that both blanks are still unseen. Reaching into the bag and trying to get them, that makes a ton of sense. There's also
Yeah.
there were also the options of something like horns on column L.
Yeah, I really like that play. It also does kind of block some good bingo lines. Right, Jalamokas mentioned it blocked Guipures, which could have really bailed Dave out of this double U rack that he's faced with now.
As it stands, David punished for missing the bingo last turn. And then this is a rack where you'd like to be able to do some kind of fish, but there is no really strong leave to fish towards.
I know. Yeah, it's like I guess GUU is getting rid of that is probably the best lead, keeping EIPS. But I don't think exchanging is in the cards here. He's only down 22.
Get scores updated, and we apologize for the clock being frozen. We're not quite sure what happened to that camera.
I think with both blanks out, Dave may be in a bit worse of a position than the score suggests. I mean, down 20, holding two U's. I think he might need to figure out how to get a bingo down as soon as possible. So even playing something like, I don't know, Voodoo, I don't want to get rid of those U's any way that I can.
So David taking a different route, going with Gwyneth for 17, which again, playing off multiple tiles, trying to dig deeper into the bag, unaware of the fact, of course, that Jerry has drawn both of the blanks that he was hunting for.
Yes, those. I think that Joe Mogus in the chat was asking if those are blanks. Yeah, those are actually I think custom designed blanks using the Muni logo, our form of public transit around San Francisco. I believe Mitch Poplak designed it. I'm not 100% sure. And so yeah, those are new this tournament. Jerry seems to be obstructing the rack, but I believe it was blank CINOR. Is that right?
That's what I recorded. Of course, Jerry with a plethora of options available.
And it looks like he's finding by far the best one with Draconic.
And it appears to be the only one that utilizes the D that was partially obstructed by uh, David's last play. I probably would have burned a couple of more minutes trying to find a 9 through the MO. Just because
Ooh,
with 2 blanks you have the option to do something stylish, but it does not appear as though certainly nothing that reaches either triple. So Jerry will take the 85 points, take a 90-point lead, and David now, having drawn a second S, has one play to keep himself into this game. And I will leave it to the chat for a couple of minutes to try and find it.
that find of Draconic by Jerry is really quite impressive to me. I think when you're looking at both blanks, you can start to get a little bit stressed trying to think of all the permutations they can be, and finding that best bingo with a couple overlaps, quite impressive in my opinion.
And so it appears the chat has found the only playable bingo from David's rack here. Through the T up top of Trigo, it would be Titular for 77, which would re-even the scores and leave us with a would also bring the bag down to 7, which puts us squarely into the pre-end game, which is a phase of the game where Jerry in particular excels because again he's starting to think like a chess player, see several moves ahead, and
Yeah, I've lost many games to Jerry in the pre-end game when he's come up with some really amazing finds. I'm a little worried for Dave. He hasn't lined up Titular yet, and there's really no great options if he doesn't find the bingo.
and it's one of those racks that it's tricky to spot because if you delete one of the S's and try to look at AILRSTU, well, you'll see rituals,
Right,
but that already has an S. So seeing a rack with a bingo that ends in an S plus a second S can be among the more tricky bingos to find.
exactly. Yeah. I think he does probably understand kind of the gravity of this situation, so I'm sure he's looking for anything he can find to get himself back into this game. So I do hope he takes the time and does find Titular.
Again, the clocks appear to be frozen, so we don't know how long he's going to end up taking on the turn. He does have plenty of time, so this is the sort of spot where, when trying to find a bingo, this is what you save the time for, is to take a few extra minutes
Yeah,
and work through this and try to find the play you need.
I guess he also probably is looking. There are 4 E's left from his perspective. You know, you're looking at this rack. You would love an E that would kind of make finding the bingo much easier. You'd have a plethora of options. I wonder if he's looking for a fish at this point. I guess US is maybe probably the best thing he could do. Maybe hooking chlorins if he doesn't find the bingo.
The trouble with that is you're partially obstructing the T you need.
Yep. Right, and then you're forced to either underlap tenors or bingo through the C.
Or hit a bingo ending in the T, which
Yep.
you have the IST, you're hoping to draw an E. He goes with lug.
Yeah, bummer to miss that, but He's not out of it yet. If he can bingo on his next turn, there's still some hope for Dave. Did you catch Jerry's rack, Mike?
I did not, or I think I did. It was something like Bdeello, if memory serves.
Bdello. Okay. And so he's now up, let's see, 80 points. Lug only scoring 10 last turn for Dave.
Okay, we've got that confirmed.
So from Jerry's perspective, he can still withstand a bingo from Dave. He just needs to keep scoring. And a bingo, say it scores 70 or 80 points, he should have, tempo in the end game and still have a very good chance to win this, even if a bingo comes down. I'm looking at something like Lob next to Draconic. Obviously, that doesn't address any of the bingo threats.
And playing something like that, it is not really in Jerry's style. He's going to want to prevent what he sees David attempting to do. I would be looking at something like OBE, hooking chlorine, which again partially obstructs the T, clears the B, scores reasonably, and if David bingos, see, they have 12 in the bag. OBE would take it to 9. A bingo would take it to 2, which is not the greatest place to be if you're Jerry. You'd
Yeah, it's not
rather.
ideal. His worst case scenario is probably having a bingo to the T, which Dave actually does have. A bingo to the T, maybe with a Z, something like, what would it be? Satirize.
And Jerry's going
Wow.
to just annihilate the line completely with
Wow.
bolted for 9, which
That's
again does two things. It completely destroys that line, and if David bingos elsewhere, such as through the sea of chlorine, or I guess through the MO on the bottom, Jerry's left 7 in the bag. So a bingo now will empty the bag and leave Jerry in a pure end game, which
yeah. Wow. It's a brilliant play. I think in retrospect, there's really at this point there's almost no way that he could lose after that.
so
Like no bingo was going to score nearly enough with his now 90-point lead. And I think that analysis about the end game timing is spot on, Mike.
yeah. So David now in desperation mode, trailing by 89, 7 in the bag. I would be looking at something like AIT in the bottom left corner. You're not setting up any hook you have. The only tiles that would go there in the unseen pool are the B, the G, and the W.
Oh man, I mean it's the situation is just so bleak. I mean a single bingo is not enough. If he's hoping to win this game, I almost want to set up a triple triple and somehow have Jerry have all consonants or something like that and be unable to block it.
I'm not even seeing how to do that.
Yeah, Sri SRI under Keta. If he has all consonants, then maybe you could have some miracle.
Uh, in a more casual game, I would use my emergency backwards forwards play and play Triassic up to the Sea of Chlorine.
You're
That's
right.
likely
Yeah.
not that that's likely to be nearly enough anyway, but this just goes to show that at this high level, one misstep, in this case, missing Druggist
August.
several turns ago, can swing the game.
Yeah, aside from that one miss, I think it's
Well,
really been an impressive game on both sides.
well, two misses for David. He also had Titular.
Oh, right, right.
And again, these plays are not the easiest plays in the world to find, but I would normally expect David to find them.
I mean, let's not forget that being on stream, being annotated with the cameras can definitely put a little bit of pressure on the players. I've known myself to miss some really bingos that I would normally find on stream, and I think, yeah, it's tough. It's a tough place to be. I think I hope that David can kind of bounce back in the rest of the tournament. So he opts for A's AIS. Setting up his R definitely seems reasonable. I'm not sure there's really any rack that Jerry might have that he couldn't block this. Maybe like something like B, D, D, G, W, a bunch of junk. And so now what is, Mike, do you happen to write down Jerry's rack?
Looks like he has BDEEELY.
ELY. And so he's now up 343 to 269 by my
Yeah.
count. I think, I mean, all he has to do is, yeah, play something down there. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
Block the hook. He goes for bed. Seems like a great option. Scores 28. Leaves just one in the bag. Right. So yeah, I guess play something down there and don't empty the bag. And I think Jerry's able to do that quite well. And Dave's now looking at AGIRSTT. He missed the bingo again, or didn't miss it. Was not able to hit a bingo again.
Missed his draw.
Missed his draw, exactly.
I can't. Now trailing by 102. I'm not even. There's not even a way to set up a bingo that would be enough, even if you hit it.
Right. He could fish the G looking for citrates, maybe. I think Jerry's going to sniff that out. Would striate play anywhere else? Maybe something through the MO? Not too sure. No.
I'm not seeing anything that would play in two places.
Yeah, neither am I. And there, because of that, as Wanderer 15 mentioned, the staircase in the bottom left, it's very hard to open anything on that part of the board now. So at this point, I think, yeah, Dave is maybe looking to save some spread. I don't really, yeah, there's not really much else to play for here.
Yeah.
I guess ideally he's able to go out in two. But I think he probably can kind of look through all the potential draws, and it's probably possible. Let's see.
I mean, and also, IST or EST plays fit on row 6, but again, anything in that spot, if you don't have a second play somewhere else on the board, then it's just going to get blocked.
Unless, of course, Jerry might have mistracked or makes a mistake. I mean, it's always possible. We are human. Yeah, there's a suggestion of Tragi in the chat.
Which would definitely
Does
be the spread play.
just the one question is, are you gonna not be able to go out with certain consonant draws after that?
Yeah, that would be the only other way. If the scores were even like 20 or 30 points closer, I would start looking in this spot for some way to set up the Z that I hope my opponent doesn't have.
Yep, yep.
But in this particular spot, it doesn't appear there is a way to do that, and B, it wouldn't be enough anyway. So looks like David waving the white flag, playing Tragi. And he will draw the O, it looks like.
And I expect Jerry to definitely take his remaining time to find his optimal out sequence. Just because he is leading the tournament now, his spread is quite good, but in an open tournament like this, every point of spread is going to help. And so, yeah, losing 10 points of spread, 20 points of spread every game can really, really add up. So I guess the first thing he'll think about is, what is Dave's best outplay? He's holding SOT. Where does that go?
Let's see. We'll toss up in the column L. Thought alongside Draconic.
Yep. So probably not worth. None of those look like they're going to score enough to be worth blocking. And so now I think Jerry probably just needs to figure out what's the best way he can score with his Z and ideally get rid of one of the Y or W. I think he might have even lined it up. Yeah, Yez does seem like probably the optimal move here, making Fey and playing through a C.
Mm-hmm.
Good to double check, make sure there's not something better here.
And in this particular spot, you do want to make sure even if it doesn't score much, leave yourself an outplay. And the reason being that as Yez comes down, David could opt not to go out. He could play OS, forming JO and QIS. That would score 27. And if Jerry's next play on this board doesn't score very well, it might be a better sequence.
Oh, Sexto. That's a great find by Dave. Very nice.
Okay, forget what I just said.
Outplay.
That's going to always be worth it.
Yep. Very nice.
So
he'll pick up 18 more with DEELW from Jerry's rack.
And looks like that's going to make the final score once our tracker updates. 410, 338 win for Jerry. Let's see if we can listen into the overhead cam as they postmortem this.